know you. I don't even have to give you the introduction. Go to his YouTube, go to the
Thank you.
page, Buck Angel, check him out. You know what's going on. You know what's going on. You know what I mean?
Thank you, friend.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. So,
Appreciate it. I appreciate being here and I appreciate the work you're doing. So thank you.
no, definitely. I do appreciate that too. Let's talk about defining the internet because I feel like there's a lot of dangerous ideology when it comes down to handling the word called transphobia or being transphobic. Speak to that to the audience, please, and
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, wow, it's heavy, my friend, because, well, first just want to put this out there. I'm a transsexual man. I'm a biological female who transitioned to live my life as a man. I'm not a man. I'm still a biological female. I look like a man. I want to be a man, blah, blah, blah. So that being said, I just want to put that out there. So that is where I'm going to tell you that it's scaring me on many levels of to what's happening with this redefinition of words, and specifically transphobia is being used as a weapon now as opposed to being used as a way to stop people from being a certain way and to help educate people to not be hateful or fearful towards somebody like myself. So remember, transphobia means fear of, but they're using it in a way that's to use it to shut down conversation or to make somebody feel bad about themselves, or to even have people not ask a question. What does it mean to be trans, Buck? Why did you do this? Well, you know what I mean? Which I've always done. And the education, it creates change. We all know that, and on all levels of things that people are fearful of, right? And you could even say that as a black man. You could, if you didn't let people ask questions about what your experiences are as a black man as opposed to my experience as a trans, how do we meet together, and how do we start to find solutions for these things? So I oppose the way this word transphobia has been now used as a means and a way to shut down conversation, and not a means and a way to sort of call out hate and actual transphobia. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with that word.
You think a lot of men and women are scared to really take the deep dive and understand what the essential meaning and truth of being transsexual versus transgender? And like, where can they
Oh,
distinguish
sure.
the information and things like that?
100%. That's because these activists, right, have literally just completely rearranged the furniture in the house. So I don't even know. I'm like in the house going, what, whose house is this? It doesn't look familiar to me. And so, yeah, they are, who's ever the head of this marketing team on trans, because it's become a marketing space and it's become an ideological space as opposed to where I come from, which is a medical necessity to do this. So with that's why when you take on things like what the trans community has done, it's to make people fearful. And I think you can lay that across a lot of communities. When you start creating fear in people, they're too scared to, right, come and say, but I don't understand, Buck. Because then immediately if you say, I don't understand, you're a transphobe. Sit down.
And that's where I feel like it gets challenging because I feel like you're as a content creator, right? You went through this 30 years ago,
Yep.
right? I did my research. I did everything. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Thank you.
As a content creator now, you start seeing a lot of these people on social media now coming out and raising these awareness flags and saying that, oh, they shouldn't be listening to somebody like you. But it's like when I actually go through the lens and I'm like, well, let me listen to Buck because I think Buck's got a little bit more skin in this game. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel like I'm doing something right, because they've never acted that way to me. This community, I use that word loosely because I don't necessarily believe in community. The community has now become a sort of ideological space. If you don't agree with everyone, then you're not part of the community. That's not community. Community is like-minded people, which we're all trans, but we have different ways of political beliefs, ideas, opinions. That's community. But now they've use this space to sort of tell people not to listen to me or anyone who disagrees with the narrative. And that makes me powerful, by the way. I only take it as powerful because that means they're scared of me. And anyone out there, if I just want to give you a little piece of advice from an old an old tranny, if someone tells you don't look at it, look at it. Listen to it. And I'm not saying just with me, but anything people say, oh, you don't need to read that, I already read it for you, right? When people say stuff like that, that's a red flag to me. That says, oh, they don't want you to see something there. So the reason they don't want you to see me or talk to me or have anything to do with me or call me transphobic. Remember, I transitioned 32 years ago. I am 61 years old. So I have a lot of skin in this game, and that's why they fear me. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a very powerful space to be in when a community tries to shut you out.
Would you call it a form of them being gatekeepers and trying to like create isolation?
Excellent, 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 my friend. Never thought about that. So, yeah, I think so because that's what they call me, as if it's a bad thing. I don't think gatekeeping is a bad thing. And what I did is I turned it on them and I call it safekeeping. So I'm all about a structure. I don't believe children should be transitioning. I don't think there's a such thing as trans kids. I think kids are gender nonconforming or finding their space. We were all kids once. We all struggled with lots of things. So that being said, that is a very bad space to be in, to shut down conversation, as opposed to if they were more open to having these conversations. I think people would be much more open to understanding what does it even mean to be a transsexual person. But when people in communities shut stuff down or are not willing to even have it's difficult for me sometimes to have these conversations because I just want to be seen as a dude. I don't want to have to keep saying, oh, I'm a biological female. And now I have to say it all the time. 32 years ago, it was a struggle for me. Today, it's not. And why I can sit here and say I'm a biological female. But that was the whole point of me transitioning, so I would never have to say it again.
No, and I like that you say that because I feel like there's too many different things that society's pushing. Not to cancel both of us, there's some stuff I could really say, and I know why it's happening because, let's just say this, the world is being developed and changed and shifted. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And the people just need to get on their Googles and really just do the research. When you went into your development, right, was there any books? Was there anything that you learned before you got into this space? How did you actually really position yourself?
Yeah, it was difficult, friend. 32 years ago, the internet didn't exist. I grew up with no internet. I grew up with no social media. I grew up with very little friends because I did struggle as a person. I struggled mostly more with my sexuality than I did so much with my gender, because back in the day, we weren't talking about trans and inundating your brain with it, right? I knew that I wanted to be a boy, but I sort of shoved that back, and I was a tomboy, and I had a great childhood. I want everybody to know this. I had an awesome childhood. I can tell you that I'm glad I didn't transition at 12 or 16, right? I went through life, and those struggles were difficult, but I believe struggle is what creates you as a better person. If we don't let people go through struggles, they don't understand what they've gained because you're not struggling for it, right? So with that, yeah, I struggled, no doubt about it, and I tried to find my space, and I'd struggle with alcohol and drugs and things like that because I just didn't understand myself until I found a therapist who was sort of willing to dig deep with me, and she didn't even know what she was doing. Nobody back 30 years ago understood what trans was. It wasn't. You mostly saw men becoming women. You never saw a woman becoming a man. And it wasn't until I think I saw a documentary with a trans man in it, a woman becoming a man, and it was like a documentary thing, and then I spoke to my therapist about it, and she's like, well, I don't know how we do this, but so on some level she just sort of walked me through it, and I became an experiment. My doctor, who was my endocrinologist, had never done this with a woman who wants to be a man, and I was his first, and he called me a guinea pig, and he said, I don't know what I'm doing, and so my desperation to become this person was it. I didn't care about anything else. I only cared. So I took a chance on some level to become this person. And I think it's why I am this person today, because I was willing to take these chances for myself, not for you. Where today I see this ideological space where everyone wants to be trans, and trans is an identity. This is not an identity, it's a medical condition that I deal with, and that I don't call myself trans, I call myself male. So I want you all also to see the difference there in an ideological space of identity and a person who struggled with a very dysphoric space. And I didn't transition until the age of 30.
There's a lot there. There is a lot there because it helps me understand,
Yeah.
because, I have gay friends and I support their movement.
Great.
And then this was positioned in front of us, and it's created a lot of Q&A, right? Because you don't want to say the wrong thing. You could work alongside somebody that's a transgender and you don't even know that. And if you say the wrong thing, then you're basically held to the fifth degree, to where you work in a corporation could sit here and just axe you out because, oh, well, you should know this. These are our principles. Right. These are our policies. But I feel like what's not good for the goose is not good for the gander. Does that make sense?
That's right.
And I think that
100%.
If you spoke to where I identify as a black male, if we really wanted to go into corporations and we wanted to really create a shitstorm, we could. But that's a whole other topic for another day.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
Yep.
And I think that where men and women get kind of on edge a little bit is like, well, how do we navigate these spaces? Like, how do we really navigate these spaces? So we're like, it's inclusive. But I feel like inclusive is something now that is, they use that word and they redesign how the word's going to follow through. It's weird to me. It's really weird to me. And I still work in a corporation. And I think that like when you work in a corporation, I understand the rules and the policy, but then there's some stuff I'm going to call out and be like, yo, okay, you all have to make me understand this. You get what I mean?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Great. No, what you're saying is so all across the board. So I'm going to tell you again, 32 years I've been walking the world this way. I've never had the problems I have today. Okay. Why didn't I have the problems I had today? Well, first off, because I've always been honest. Secondly, look at how I look. I understand my position as a transsexual person. I am supposed to try to make myself fit back into the world. So me and you don't have issues. That's what a transsexual person is. That's the gender dysphoria. I want you to see me as a man. So once you see me as a man and I incorporate myself back into the world, there's no issue between me and you. I could tell you many times I work with dudes, hardcore duty dudes, and they didn't know I was trans. And eventually getting to know them, I said, oh, well, by the way, I just want to let you know I'm a transsexual. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, dude. They're like, wow, that's awesome, cool, badass. Like, they would just be so amazing to me. I never had issues with people. So fast forward to today, and we could have conversation, and we didn't need DEI or whatever that stuff is, of diversity training and all of this stuff, because we knew how to sort of coexist in the world together. You figure it out, right? Especially somebody like me. It's up to me to figure it out. It's not up to you. And that's the problem I have with the new trans community. They're reversing those roles, and they're expecting you to create a space for them when they're literally tiny. And so that's causing the rift. Because I'm always telling you, look, dude, you don't have to in any way, shape, or form agree with this transition. No, you do not. I would never expect that from you, because I might not agree with something you do in your life, right? And so for us to find that common ground, we have to be respectful of people's own belief system and people's way of being, and not take everything so personal, if that makes sense. I don't take it personal if you don't agree with me and you misgender me. I don't take it personal. But I think that's the growth of me being a human, a 61-year-old, and also 32 years in transition. These people have made a joke out of what trans is.
No, for sure. And you say you're 61 and you don't even look 61. Like, what are we talking about here? You know what I mean? The fountain of youth. Whatever you're doing, keep it going. You know what I mean?
Right on. Smoking weed, dude.
Right? Hey, you got to do what you got to do, right? It's wild because when I sat with April Hutchinson, and when she had to go through, she mentioned your name. And instantly I had it written in my back pocket. And I was like, I'm going to go to the channel. I want to go check you out. And one of the first ways I checked you out was actually the debate that you did with the vegan. And I sat there and I was like,
oh, wow.
Let me watch this.
Yeah.
Open mind.
Great.
So I'm going to tell people a little story
Great.
here. Go into things open-minded and then make sense of what's going on. I didn't go to the comments. I didn't go to the search. Okay, who's Buck Angel? What are people saying? I didn't go to the Reddits. I went to that debate because what that debate did, it really put me onto what we like to say game in slang, right? It put me on the game because it made me understand what's happening here. The vegan said some points, which I was kind of like, okay. And then you cooked her. I'm going to say it, open flame. You cooked her because you said some things. And I was like, okay, I agree with what he's saying. I agree with what he's saying. But this is the thing is that when we're in this space, people pick up a book and really just start understanding the things that are going to put you ahead of the game to be educated. And sit and have conversations in a safe space. That is not safe, for instance, in a controlled environment where people can say whatever they want to say, but go to the root of the sources. And I've seen you had some conversations with some polarizing people on YouTube. And I just watch a little bit of the information. I'm like, okay, these are safe conversations. But now here's what it doesn't get safe. Dating. Because I think that some of the transgenders are not being open and honest if they're dating people in the opposite sex.
Right.
How do you feel they should navigate that? Because you got to be open. You got to be straight to the point.
So I've been advocating for that for a long time, and I got nailed by the community back in the day because I believe in it's called disclosure. Okay, you have to remember where I come from. Before this, I was a gay woman, and I dealt with AIDS epidemic, and all my gay friends died of AIDS. We had a thing called disclosure back in the day, where if you had sex with somebody, you needed to disclose that you had HIV or some kind of STD. Disclosure is huge, not only for me, but for you. So I just lay that on top of trans. I cannot go on a date with somebody, look at me, right, without them. Maybe if we're going on a date, but if it's going to get to the next level of sex or kissing or whatever, it is my obligation to let you know that I'm not a man, okay? I have different anatomy. And that not only helps me, it helps you. And so I don't want to get in a situation with somebody where all of a sudden we're like, and it makes them uncomfortable. So that being said, no, I've always advocated for disclosure. And now today, these weirdos are saying stuff like, if you don't date a trans person, you're transphobic. If you don't, I'm like, wait a minute. That is very dangerous behavior. Danger on many levels, friend. So yeah, we're getting trans women not disclosing that they are biological males to men they might be dating, and it's not okay. That is the worst thing you can do, not only for yourself, but for the other person, because the other person is put in a position now, right? I'm not interested in you. If I knew that you were a biological female, yeah, but guess what? That is not transphobic. No, it is not. It's called preference.
And you know what the mainstream is going to say is that the mainstream media would say is, "Oh, take the person as they am, and you have to be accept who they are."
That's not true.
But that's the thing, right? I can accept you.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you're coming into crossing lines of that, where it's like you speak to and I speak to, getting to that next level, like, yeah, we can go on a date. Yep. Sure, you don't know that. It is what it is. It could be a network. It could be whatever. Yeah. But if we're going to get to intimacy and physicality, like, come on. You got to be like, hey, you know, I have something to tell you. Because I'll be honest. I remember when I was 25, I met with a girl. Mm-hmm. Went to a drive-in movie. And she goes, I have something to tell you. And I'm like, I panicked, right? So I know like this is an inside joke with me and one of my boys. And I panic and I go, so what is it? And I said, I was like, you were born a guy or what's up? She goes, oh, no. She goes, I'm married, but I'm in an open relationship. And Buck, honestly, I was like, I felt like in a way where I was like, okay, we're good here. We're good here.
You were like, shoo.
I'm like, because if it was going to be something else, I'm going to be like, so why are we here? You got to disclose that from the jump. You got to disclose that from the jump. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And I think that it's open, honest conversation needs to happen. It just needs to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Honestly.
But it used to be like that, friend. It used to be like that. the reason it's not like that now, and I'm going to say it, and this is why the trans community doesn't like me, because I'm calling them out. Many of these trans women are not trans women. They're cross dressers, they're fetishists, they're transvestites, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But they do not have the gender dysphoria I have, because I can tell the difference between somebody like me and somebody like them. I'm not running around fetishizing myself and getting off on it and looking like a crazy dude, right? Can you imagine like hyper putting a big penis in my pants and walking around like acting totally insane like hyper dude, right? They're hyper feminizing themselves with big huge boobs and crazy makeup and going in restrooms and taking pictures of. You don't see people like female to male transsexuals doing that. You only see men to women doing that. And so that's how I can tell you it's become a fetish. It is not what I did, which is just to put my hat and my clothes on and grow a beard and mustache and just walk the world as this little dude, right? So that's really one of the hugest problems I see happening today in our community is we've been co-opted.
You speak about that, which leads me to the elephant in the room of men wanting to compete in women's sports.
Oh,
and
God.
I thought about this yesterday. I was in my living room and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm watching basketball, or you watch golf, or you watch all these different sports.
Yeah.
Combat sports, women are going to be sparring with men. That's sparring. Or you could be training with somebody when it's in golf or basketball. But when it gets to the point, and I think this is where maybe eventually they'll come for me and they'll try to cancel me. Like, well, Rory, you shouldn't be saying this. But I don't care. I'm going to say it anyways. As a biological male, why are you anywhere stepping into a woman's profession? And the only reason why I think they're doing it is because I think it's an ego thing. And I think it's a form of misogynistic behavior, the real tendency of misogynistic behavior.
Totally.
Because you're still trying to suppress women, but you're doing it because of your gender and you're wanting to cross over. Does that make sense? So when you see that...
Yes, I'm totally on board with you.
Yeah, when you see that, like, help identify why this is happening. Go a little bit more deeper into the conversation there.
Great. So I want you to know that I'm full on against that. And as you know, because obviously, you know, I'm friends with April, but I was a female athlete and I was a pretty high ranking female athlete. And I won't stand for this nonsense. There's 3 trans athletes, 3 trans athletes, and we're gonna ruin a whole system for what women have. I was part of fighting for women's rights back in the day. I was part of fighting for women's athletics and getting us to in a space where we're now equal on some level, pay wise with men and all of that. Like we're starting to rise above feeling lesser than. And then all of a sudden, these trans women come along. It's ego. It's 100% ego. Based, it's misogyny. It's exactly what you just said. And how are we letting this happen? Because it's men. Because if this was the opposite, Rory, if it was the other way around, men would never stand for it. Men would be like, "What? Get out of here." That's why you don't see women who are men like me competing in men's sports. Also, we'll get our asses kicked because biology does matter. And so this is the part and so they've done it in a way, my friend, where they've pieced together, where you started the conversation, transphobia. So they've gotten people brainwashed that it's transphobic if you say something against them. So people are too scared. Even though the emperor's clothes, you know that thing that whole saying where the emperor's walking around naked, is like, look at my clothes. And everyone's like, you're naked, dude. But everyone's like, no, he's actually wearing clothes. Gaslighting everybody into thinking this is completely normal, where everybody, I don't care, everyone knows this isn't normal, and everyone knows this is completely misogynistic, but people are too scared to be transphobic. So that's why these conversations are important, and that's why I stepped up to the plate. As a transsexual of 32 years, they can't knock me off. They cannot, and they know that I'm dangerous to their ideology because I won't stand for that. There's no fairness in it whatsoever in any way. Sorry, guess what? When you transition, you take on a lot of things that you're going to have to deal with for the rest of your life. And one of those things is maybe you're just not going to be able to play sports. Sorry, we don't have enough trans people. Sorry. So why, just because you're trans, do you get to infiltrate everybody else's space? That's not what trans is.
But who's going to stop it? Is it the communities?
We are.
Is it? Yeah.
Yes. We are. by having the conversation and by putting our feet down and saying, no, I'm not going to stand for this. And that's why it's important for trans people to start speaking out against this. I care about women and I care about kids. And as an athlete, as a child, it was one of the most amazing things I did for myself. I was a shy kid. I was not good socializing. I had a lot of stuff, but soccer changed my life. I got on a soccer team and I became this badass girl soccer player. And it was so incredible. It really helped me. And so I know that as a child who struggled in my space, right? But this is why we need to have, we need to have female sports, male sports, and trans sports. What's the problem, people? Like, they don't want to have a trans league, by the way. You know that. They created one in swimming and no trans. Because
that doesn't make any
if
sense.
we
That's what makes sense. Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Because if we do, then they acknowledge their biology. They don't want to acknowledge their biology. They're saying the minute they put estrogen in their body, they're no longer strong. I'm like, what? That's a complete total lie. We all know it. We all know it's a lie. So they don't want to acknowledge that they are stronger than women. So if we make a league, then we're acknowledging that they are stronger than women.
That confuses me, because it's just like, if you wanting to compete, I think they should be rallying and maybe championing a different conversation and saying, hey, let's have a league where it's that.
That's right.
And I think you'd see maybe more people then supporting. Because this is all 100%.
It would change the game.
You change the game.
That's right.
You reinvent the wheel. Like, you look at, and it's wild, because when I had the April conversation, I thought a lot more people that chimed in, and I appreciate you because you shared the clip and whatnot. And when she said what she said, and the way that I edited it, I was like, I did it on that reason to see is who really in my community on Instagram is going to chime in. And everybody went zippo quiet. That's right. And I said, okay, all right, let's see what you guys are really about. Because it's like, if you're protecting your identity because of, you don't want to be associated, well, then you're just as guilty as sin also too. Because it's like, in the same breath, we want to talk about social injustice issues, and people rally behind that. And it's okay, right? You want to support black people then. But then you see where that's being suppressed. And they're not the same things, ladies and gentlemen, because there's a lot of there's a lot of history. There's years of history. There's years of stuff. But then you want to rally behind and then simply put points into where, they should be supported. They should have all these things. I agree, but at the same time, there's got to be certain lanes that you got to chop off and just say, hey, listen, like, this is not going to work. It's not going to work.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Because
100%.
Like, it's when it's going to get when it's going to get bad is that when you see the transgenders go compete with women and they actually physically hurt somebody, I think that's when people are going to start being like, oh, wow. Oh, okay. We're in this instant world of everything goes viral. One person shares something goes viral. Is that when people are going to wake up, Buck? What do you think?
God forbid. I sure hope no woman or girl gets hurt from this situation, but it's inevitable. It's actually inevitable if we don't put an end to it now. Now, that being said, back in, I think it was maybe 7-8 years ago, I was on Joe Rogan, and Joe and I were discussing this transgender woman, biological male athlete called Fallon Fox. I don't know if you remember him.
No.
And he was a MMA fighter. Okay, so from a male MMA fighter to a female MMA fighter. Okay, just when you're done with this, you can Google it and see it. Everybody can. It's fucking insane. I'm gonna say she slaughtered the woman and busted her head, like broke her face apart, and like instantly, and is like, see, and like totally acting like a dude. I'm like, wow, and people turn their heads. And I was like, that's when I really got on this whole trans thing. I was like, nope. And I went on Joe Rogan to discuss it, and I spoke to him, and I said, this is not right, dude. He's like, he goes, every time I say it, I get called trans. I go, no, I'm telling us, this is not right. And that's when the trans community came after me. Because I was like, I'm not going to, is everyone seeing what I'm seeing? This is a man who wants to be a woman smashing this woman's face in, and everyone's just acting like it's completely normal. So that is when it started, and I just can't even believe that we're still having this conversation.
It's really, you know what? Fuck it. I'll say it. I'll say it. And I know that I know my corporation is probably going to be sitting here and being like, "Oh yeah, here he goes." I think we have to underline the issue of what's going on, and I think that it's unfortunate that this is happening. I think there's some people that take advantage of things to put a certain priority on to certain stuff. Because if you look at realistically, doesn't matter what gender you are, I support what people want to do. It doesn't matter what's the color of your skin, right? Because racism is still alive and well in this world.
That's right. Yep.
But I think that when it gets to the crossroads, people got to wake up. People got to really start asking themselves, what are we here to do? Right? Inclusion is something that I feel like people pick and choose when to use it, right? Like if you're going to go to the restaurant, if you want chicken or you want steak. But when we think about diversity and inclusion, I'll tell you, it's a bunch of virtual signaling that's happening. It's pick and choose what it is we want to do. It's like random lottery numbers that you go play at your random corner store, variety store, whatever. And I think that more conversations as this, as content creators, podcasters, people that have a mic in the face, not everybody can do what we do and speak, have that cadence. But it's really to position and leverage ourselves to say, hey, listen, we need to make change. You saw the situation that went viral. Riley Gaines.
Yeah.
My apologies. Yeah. Riley Gaines came out.
That's all right. Yeah.
And Riley called out Dawn Staley, South Carolina. And then she got blocked. And then I said to myself, is Dawn Staley, what we really doing here? And then I said, well, wait, it's another media paid puppet that doesn't want to point the actual finger to the agenda. But then in the same breath, you want to say, oh, Caitlin Clark put the NCAA women's basketball. Whoa. You said that because that's the bottom line. Wow. That's the money. That's the dollar. But then you come out and you say all the things that you say. That I'm just sitting here and I'm just like, what are we doing?
I know. It's shocking. It's literally like spinning. Everyone's spinning, right? Everyone's too scared, but it's all money based. You hit that on the head. The whole transgender space is money based. Don't think it's not. There's no reason we would ever be doing this to children unless there was money attached to it, friend. We've always kept children away from the LGBT community. We never transitioned kids. We never said kids are gay. We never said we didn't want that to be next to us because look what that's doing. That's the reason why trans is going down. The minute you attach yourself to children, forget it. All bets are off. And I'm like, what are you people doing? There's no such thing as a kid who's trans and then giving them really crazy medication. And then that's just leading into all this other stuff so that people are being manipulated into their thought process. And then that lady knew her integrity is shit. These coaches, these people in sports, their integrity is shit. They don't care. They literally, and they're going to have to live with themselves because it's not going to stay this way. And it's all going to come out. And I can't wait till those people get completely challenged on their bullshit because there's no way a woman coach would ever, never. She knows exactly what she's doing. And to block Riley, why don't you just have the conversation?
Don't want to because they know that they'll get clipped up and they'll get put on social media and then they'll get exposed.
That's right.
And you'll see that happen. Like I remember I was watching a content creator say, when you know a lot of what's going on and you start raising inquiries about what's going on, that's when they'll start putting up hurdles in front of you to try to make you kind of watch your what's the word I'm saying? Watch
your step.
Your step, right? Because you see it happen in corporations, you see it happen in anything in life. Bring awareness to something and watch how they'll simply say is, you got to watch that one. You now put a bullseye on your back, but it's not a bullseye on your back.
Right.
Because when you have a peace of mind, you have a sense, you ask questions. You ask fucking questions to get clarity. And clarity means discourse between the A side and the B side, and then you come to a common ground. But they don't want to come to a common ground. A lot of people just want to be like, oh, this is our way, this is our policy, it's black and white.
That's right.
Last time I checked, black and white mixed together means gray. Doesn't mean not. We have a gray area, Buck. We have a gray area. Right?
Brilliant.
Okay.
Brilliant.
See what I'm saying? Right?
That's right. Yeah, I got you. I'm the same. I'm literally that guy. I like want to build bridges. I want to get us back together again. They don't. They want to keep us separate. They want to when they say shit like believe trans people. What? Wait a minute here. Believe the Nazis. Like believe, right? Are you kidding me? Like what are you talking about? Believe who? Trans isn't a whole like one entity. Trans isn't a condition, people. It's a condition that we deal with that's horrible. It's debilitating on so many levels until we get our standing, and then we feel so powerful once that's what people need to understand. Those people who are like, believe trans people, trans kids, trans joy, that's an ideological space. And ideological spaces don't want you to ask questions.
I like that you say that. It makes me think about certain things that are outside of this that are going on. You know what I mean? Because
yep, that's right.
It's once you have, how do I say this? Once you have a peace of mind and you know what's going on in the world, and I'll always repeat this. This is when people then look at you differently. You know what I mean? Because I get it even with podcasting and the various topics that I talk about. You can intimidate a lot of people because it's like, oh, he knows everything that's going on. Like, when does he stop, or when does she stop? And it's just like,
right.
You got to figure it out. This is the reason why we have communication like this. Doesn't matter how big or how small the channels are. It's because to create this discourse has people then having the conversation. I know once this comes out, it gets published, I'm probably going to have a magnitude of people that are going to be like, yo, dude, that's bravery for you to step in and have these type of conversations. Knowing who you are visibly as a black male. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
But then also, too, at the same time, knowing that you still possibly still work a 9 to 5, but then you can still navigate and organize and say to people like, listen, it's okay to have these conversations. We're not yelling over each other. We're not, you know what I mean, looking for those viral moments. It's about creating a safe fucking space. Safe space is not just about, you know, oh, well, take me as I am. No, we got to create safe space here. These are the conversations that change. Information changes situations. You know what I mean?
That's right. But they don't want you to have information. And actually, they don't want you to have facts. You know, a lot of the things that trans activists say are not based on factual information. It's based on feeling. And it's based on this idea that you can't challenge how I feel. Yes, I can. 100%. My therapist challenged the heck out of me for years before I made this choice. Thank God. Because that's why I've never looked back for 32 years. I'm one of the oldest trannies on the planet, right? Because I have a solid foundation. They're building these trans people with totally wobbly foundations. It's going to crash and burn. And then a lot of young people are going to get hurt by this. And I won't stand for that. This has been an incredible journey for me. And I want people to see the difference between an ideological space. This is real. I don't want people to think trans people don't exist. And I don't want people to think that I shouldn't be doing this. So if I let them just continue to blah, 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 then I'm screwed myself. On some level, it's self-preservation. And I'm like, wait a minute. These young people need to have some time under their belt. And we need to talk about how kids evolve over time, how people evolve, how adults figure themselves out later on in life, right? Nobody knows themselves at 10. And now they're saying babies are trans. I'm just like, these people are nuts, dude.
This is where I know that at the end of the day, it's like, it's confusing because it's like a child is growing in its infancy. When a child comes out, like, a child, you can put a video game controller in front of the kid's face and it can master, say, Fortnite and do whatever it needs to do at the age of 7. But to simply sit here to understand male and woman and understand, you know, those parts of, like, what it is to be a man or what it is to be a woman, you don't learn that until you even get into, like, past 18 after high school. To when you get into your actual origins of sexuality and you start maybe experiencing things. And we all know boys and girls are experiencing at a younger age. You just see what I'm saying? Like, these kids are
totally,
they're doing things that you're like, wait, I wasn't even doing that when I was 19, 20. Like,
I know, dude. I'm like, totally.
So now, could you imagine you're going to school? I don't have any kids myself, but if my son or daughter came home and said, Mom, Dad, such and such, this is going on. I'm gonna look and just be like, well, how do we navigate this conversation now?
Yeah.
Because teachers seem to be on in on this whole entire thing also too, and
They
saying
are.
what it is they want to say. And you're like,
That's
well,
right.
are we trying to like
No.
control world population now? Because that's what it's kind of coming to. This is what it's coming to.
I know.
I said it.
Totally. You said it because it's true. I agree. Something weird's going on, my friend. Something weird. They've co-opted trans in order to. They are messing with kids. You know, I don't care what any adult does. I always say it all the time. Cut your arms and legs off and become a beach ball. No one cares. Just go down the street, dude. See you later. When it comes to children, I put my my gatekeeping stick is up because I do have a kid and I'm having another kid and I care about children and I was a child who dealt with stuff and I know that these kids need what is called guidance. They need adults to step up and say, slow down, man. These kids don't know who they are. No person, I don't care if you're male or female, even understands sexuality until they first off go through puberty and secondly get into a space where they start realizing I'm a girl. How can a 10-year-old doesn't know they're a girl or a boy yet? They're still struggling and they want to block puberty before that even becomes a thing. Says experimental weirdo. That sterilizes children, that no sexual function. So what you just said is, are they looking to sort of do population control? I mean, we could lay on all kinds of stuff on this. You know that. We could. Because from afar, it looks like that. It looks creepy.
That's what it feels like. I'll say it. And if anybody doesn't, it's the same thing I said about, eventually the world's going to probably go to one currency between North America.
Sure.
And between Canada and United States. I'm surprised it hasn't done it yet because we're all in North America.
I know, me too.
People look at me like I had 18 million different heads and they're like, what are you doing?
Oh no, you're right on.
It's probably going to happen.
You're right.
Eventually.
It is.
So it's like with this, you have to really just look at things from a distance and say, let's start asking some questions.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And things like that.
That's right. That's right.
Especially
Especially when it comes to kids.
Yeah. Yeah. In your last 30 years of what you've gone through and everything you've done, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do I say this? Like, what has been your biggest learning lesson in all of this?
It's a great question, friend, because I've lived so many lives, and even 30 years of this has been incredible on so many levels. I think the number one thing I'm going to tell you that I have recently learned, and that's because I'm taking the negativity from the trans thing and trying to turn it into a positive thing. And so one of the things that I have learned from this whole thing is integrity. And I didn't understand what integrity was until I sat with myself one day, seeing all of this stuff happen. And I'm like, do I, like biting my nails, right? Do I say something? Because I was revered once in the trans community. I was looked upon. I stood on a pedestal on some level. I was in the forefront of leading trans rights on some level 30 years ago and creating space and talking around the world and just, hopefully building a great space. But I started seeing negative, horrible stuff coming from my community. And it's very hard when you're in a space that I was to just sit with yourself and say, what do I do? Because, I create products for the community. I'm going to lose money. My business is going to take a hit. My own self is going to take a hit. It was difficult, my friend. But what I did is I sat and I looked at the future and I said, will you want to be a part of the future when this crumbles, because it will? Or are you okay to take the punches in the face for a little while? And then I looked up the word integrity. I did. And I said, no, that's it. I have to have integrity. I have to. I'm an elder in the community. But most foremost, this has been amazing for me. I will keep telling you that this transition has been a godsend for me on so many levels that I would not be a good person if I didn't. So I think integrity was something I didn't understand until I started to step up and really use my transition in a way that says, this is not trans. This is misogyny and an attack on children and women. And it wasn't easy. I got hated and punched in the face and just everything I probably imagined, but more. But here I sit today, and I came through it on some level, if that makes sense. I came through it to sit with people like you and to start to rebuild our bridges, because our bridges have been literally burned up, and we don't have this situation. That's why I appreciate people like you.
Yeah, we don't. And I think that you just see it, like I mentioned about, podcasting and content creation. I think
Yeah.
there's an element that's happening now in 2024 where we're getting back to the authentic communication. It's not about the
Yes.
toxicness
Yes.
that's being spewed on socials. It's
Yeah.
wholesome conversation, because now we're flipping everything back on its axis again, and people are like, well, hold up, wait, no, 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 right? And I think to speak to men and women, when you listen to Buck, you listen to myself, rally with each other, right?
Yep.
I understand
That's
we
right.
do work with corporations and things like that, or we work
Yeah.
for ourselves, but at the same time, that's your 9 to 5, that's your bread and butter. But have these
That's right.
conversations to really make sense of what's going on, and then maybe take some of them
Yeah.
conversations and then bring it and say, hey, listen, here's a difference
right.
with this, here's a difference with that. Because I think that
That's right.
when you do that, it makes the world easier. It's hard, but it makes it easier to
Yeah.
digest. It makes it more
That's right.
palatable and things like that. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right. Well, I feel like my job right now is to sort of reel it back in and say, hey, hold up here. Like I said earlier, you don't have to agree with me as a transsexual. I completely, religious beliefs or whatever, you just don't. But what you do, you need to see me as a human, and you need to see me as somebody who did be successful in this, and it did help me as an adult. Okay. And that's why I really have to be in this space, because I don't want to lose my right to transition or the right for another adult to make this choice. Because all I ever cared about, friend, was creating a space for myself in the world. And I became very successful in my businesses and my home life, and everything I do in my life is very successful because I'm happy. So that's what I show you. These new trans are so mad. They're so angry. They're so toxic. They're so misogynist. That's not trans. Why are you not happy? The first thing you could see with a trans person who's transitioning is happiness. Such gratitude to be in this space. I don't see that from this new stuff. And that's what I want everyone to see, the difference from someone who's really has a lot of gratitude to be in this space and someone who feels entitled to be in this space.
And that's what I appreciate about you. You know what I mean? And it gives me the privilege to have this conversation, because it helps me understand. And now my last question to you would be is, for the ones that are listening, viewing this, what is some information they can do besides going to your channel, watching all the great things that you post, but what can they go to? What's the first book? What's the first podcast? What's something that they can really use to kickstart, to gain more education to this topic?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and it's a little bit of a difficult question because it's all over the place. So, I'm really great friends with Blair White, but she tends to be a little hardcore for some people. But she's a very well-known trans YouTuber who's just really spits facts. She's a little bit more on the right than me, but that's okay. Me and her are such good, close people. I think she's one channel you could watch. There's also a great organization called GenSpec. It's GENSPECT. I think it's .org, and they have tons of great information on the trans community, how to navigate it. If you have a child and you're thinking about transitioning them. There's also therapyfirst.org, a great organization full of amazing therapists. I would say that looking at the CASS review, CASS review, which just came out of the UK, will tell you a lot about what's going on today and why I sit where I sit today. And so I think those three things are really great, positive places to hear voices that are not anti-trans. They're wanting to get you information that is factual, where today the trans community is based on non-factual information. They're based on feelings, right? My feelings are getting hurt because you don't accept me as a woman. Well, guess what? You're not. You're a biological man who wants to look like a woman. I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you're honest to people, they respect you for it.
Facts.
Honesty is everything. There's no reason I ever have to lie about who I am, ever.
For sure. For sure. Buck, Angel, it's been a pleasure. And where can everybody
You're awesome.
check you
Thank
out?
you.
Right? Check out the YouTube and plug all your other information, my friend.
Yeah, YouTube. Okay, great. Thanks. Buck Angel Official YouTube, buckangel.com, my website, Buck Angel on X, and Buck Angel on Instagram. I don't really use Facebook. But also, anyone out there who is struggling with any of this stuff, please reach out to me. I very much do respond to my DMs or any emails or any of that because I care and I really want to help you find the space you need to space. So thanks, Rory, for giving me the opportunity to have the conversation and build bridges. We're building bridges back to a space where people don't have to be so fearful about
Absolutely.
having this conversation.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, my friend. I
Thank you.
appreciate you.